The winter blast that is hitting the New York area, Mamdani said, you know what? It'd be great if New Yorkers would get together and help out and decide they want to be snow shovelers as well. In theory, I like this. I think this is a good idea. He said, we're going to pay you. It's not like we're talking about volunteer work, though I think being a volunteer, a snow shoveler would be very appreciated. They know they can get people motivated and people that are going to be out of work. Because there's going to be a lot of people out of work for a couple days here. And in New York, we know how the system runs. A lot of people rely on their day-to-day wages just to afford to live there. Very expensive place to live, Will. However, it's not that simple.
And this is all in the context of everything that is going on within his own party nationally. So let's hear bite 4 from the mayor of New York himself on how you can get involved with such a massive historic snowstorm.
And for those who want to do more to help your neighbors and earn some extra cash, you too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork, which is accessible online at nyc.gov/snow, and you can get started right away.
Go to the website because you're like, hey, I want to do this. And there are some basic requirements, Will. I think these would be considered basic requirements.
That's right. So to become an emergency snow shoveler where you can make $19.14 an hour, which increases to $28.71 per hour after your first 40 hours of work in a week. Here's your eligibility requirements. You have to be 18 years old, eligible to work in the United States, and able to perform heavy physical labor. Here's how you register, though, which is raising some eyebrows. You have to bring 2 small photos of yourself, I assume for credentials, and then you need 2 original forms of ID. 2, not 1, 2 forms of ID, plus copies of them, and your Social Security card. So it seems to me, in a time of crisis in New York, it is much harder to become an emergency snow shoveler than the DNC would have it be to vote in an election in the United States. That is, if you count it, 3 forms of identification you have to bring just to get out there and shovel some snow for $19 an hour.
Look, Mamdani said, hey, this is just long-standing rules. Nothing I could do about it. Of course, we know when they fight back against something like this in terms of voter identification, they will claim to you that it's nearly impossible for people to get things like their Social Security card or a passport or 2 forms of ID or anything like this, that it's nearly an impossible task. How dare we ask that to register to vote? But if you would actually like to help today in New York City, you are one of the people that said, you know what, I'll go out there and I'll help shovel snow, which I think is a great thing. I think this program is excellent, by the way. I'm all for communities getting together and helping out where they can. God bless you. Go out there and do what you need to do. But you cannot be blind to the double standard that shows you how politically motivated things like voter ID are. We have seen issues with the Mamdani mayoralship already. This will just show that he's going to be under extreme scrutiny and extreme cracks. The fact that his team did not even notice that this was likely the requirements, because I do believe there were things like this set up before, but he's like activating it even more so, almost making a PR moment saying, come out and do this, not to look at the fact of going, this could blow up in our face if we don't address this. Maybe we can figure out how to just say a simple 1 form of identification, something like that, just to say you are who you say you are, which I think, again, by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with the identification system they have here. I think it is intense for something in an emergency situation. Voting, by the way, not emergency situation. You likely know you've had to vote or you're going to vote for, hopefully.
It's on the calendar from the Constitution.
Yeah,
so.
like indefinitely.
Right.
So, I think you have time to plan and get your IDs together and all that. But for this, when it is a purely an actual emergency event, I can understand where this may be hard to find your Social Security card. Maybe you're dealing with power outages or you can't be in your home or whatever it may be. And he was pressed on this. I think we got to be fair. Let's listen to what Zohran had to say.
There's been this controversy over the snow laborers and the sort of what some see as onerous need to have documentation. Can you just talk about if that's new and what you make of the controversy?
This is all long-standing. This is a long-standing program and long-standing requirements, and this is a way that New Yorkers get paid to shovel snow in assistance with the city's response to a winter storm event. Federal law requires that employers get authorization and documentation to pay people for their work. We are not allowed to just cut checks to individuals for their work. And these are the policies that we've had in place, but I understand that for many, it's the first time that they've ever heard about it.
He's not wrong. There are federal work requirements. There's the I-9 form when you get a job you have to fill out. And you know what no one complains about? That's stopping people from getting a job, right? But they are so concerned that the requirements to have less, in some cases, forms of identification to register to vote, to secure the elections, that somehow is seen as racist, it is seen as un-American, and it just shows the absurdity of this. But I also love that, remember, he invoked weather, the mayor did, when he was in his inauguration speech. He talked about replacing the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. Those were his words. Right now, they are seeing a historic snowstorm, so maybe it was ill-advised of him to invoke weather when talking about this. He is faced with really, this is, I would say, the first major crisis of his administration. It is something that happens that you can't control. Yeah. But
maybe the first was meeting with President Trump and actually having a good experience.
That's right. That could be a crisis to some as well. Crisis. Individualism does not mean you don't love your neighbor. And I think that we can't lose sight of that in all of this, is that when you have the rugged individualistic spirit that America has, that ends up helping your neighbor. It ends up caring for the best of your community, not being forced by your government or your government having to find ways to incentivize you to do the right thing for your neighbor. And so I love this story for that fact alone, is that we can point out that in New York, they are having to find ways and encourage people to get out and help their neighbor. Is it nice that they're actually paying people to do this? Yeah, absolutely. I have no problem with that. But it also shows the irony of their ideology, that the very basic requirements to work, to shovel snow in the city on an emergency basis is harder to do than they would have it be to even register to vote and protect the sacredness of our elections here.
They've also made it very hard to live there. And I think that's something that when you look at people who are probably going to be signing up for this program, like I said, it's people who taking a day or two off work or 3 days off work, whatever it may be, with the storms that are coming in. These are people that need their hourly wage, or they need their gig work or whatever it may be, and all of a sudden have no cash, have no way to afford. So I get there are ways you can have a lot of people, a lot of New Yorkers who are in need right now and will need help and will need financial assistance, and let them go work. I got no problem with that. But when you start counterbalancing all of these issues that he's going to have, they've got to be smarter in this. Look, I've told you, I'm wearing it today. I pray for a thriving New York City. I think New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, these are places that maybe our audience has written off. I have not. I think they're three of our best cities in the world. It's one of some of our biggest places you can come and visit. It's why people want to come to America. Often is to see what I'd say New York, LA, Orlando, and maybe San Francisco and a few other cities around the country. That is some of the biggest driving force of tourism. We want these cities to be thriving.